I never imagined that a simple work event could upend my entire sense of stability. But that Thursday night at the company's annual gala, I learned something harsh. Some people will erase you if it helps them shine. My name is Oliver, and I'd been with Claire for nearly 3 years. Most people would have said we were steady, good, even. We laughed together, argued sometimes, pushed each other through the tough days and celebrated the wins. At least, that's what I believed. Claire was driven, sharp, and had a natural charisma that drew people in without effort. I always admired that about her, how she could step into a room and instantly become the focal point. But at her boss's party that night, that charisma turned into something pointed, something aimed right past me. We walked in together, me in a modest navy suit, just trying to look decent. Claire wore a gleaming gold dress that caught every bit of light in the room. She was stunning, impossible to miss. And somehow, in all that brightness, I disappeared. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she just needed a moment. Maybe she was excited to impress the higher-ups. But within minutes, I noticed the looks, small, dismissive, deliberate. Her boss, Mr. Whitaker, a loud man who relished attention, approached her. She turned on the charm immediately, laughing, flirting just enough to keep him entertained. When I tried to greet them, she didn't even acknowledge my voice. I cleared my throat and held out 2 glasses. "Hey, Claire. I brought her some champagne." She flicked her eyes toward me, gave the quickest nod, and then shifted right back into the conversation as if I had never spoken. Her hand brushed Mr. Whitaker's arm. She stood a little too close. She laughed a little too eagerly, and each gesture felt like another small cut. I tried to keep my composure and stepped out onto the balcony, letting the cool air settle my nerves. The city glittered below, distant and quiet. Out there, everything felt simpler. No pretending, no forced smiles, no invisible role to play. But when I looked inside again, nothing had changed. Claire was still performing, still pretending I wasn't there. Eventually, one of her co-workers, Julia, leaned in and whispered something to Claire. Claire giggled, loud, careless, and I caught a glint in her eyes that felt unmistakably cruel, like she was enjoying the joke and I was the punchline. That was it. Something inside me just cooled. Not anger, clarity. I walked up to her, leaned in slightly, and said quietly, "I'm going to step outside for a bit." No scene. No confrontation. Just a decision. Then I walked away. Leaving the building, I felt the night air wash over me, washing away some of the heat and embarrassment still lingering under my skin. The sounds of the party faded behind me, replaced by the hum of passing cars and distant conversations. For the first time that night, I felt steady again. It wasn't about Mr. Whitaker. It wasn't even about Claire flirting in front of an audience. It was the casual dismissal, the way she made me vanish as if our years together meant nothing. Being ignored like that cuts deeper than any fight ever could. I'm not sure how long I stood staring at the skyline. Time felt soft, almost suspended. Then my phone buzzed. Claire's name flashed on the screen, followed by a winking emoji, playful, empty, as though none of what happened mattered. That one tiny message hit harder than anything else. No charm or laughter could cover the truth I felt settling inside me. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and started walking, with no destination in mind and no intention of returning to that party pretending everything was okay. The streets were mostly quiet, streetlights stretching shadows along the pavement. I kept replaying the night, her laughter, her leaning in toward everyone but me, the sharp sting of being treated like I wasn't even there. Each replay sent a new wave of heat through my chest. And I kept walking. The edge in me was still there, but now it felt steadier, anchored by a decision I'd finally made. I wasn't going back into that party. Instead, I wandered until I found a small cafe still open, its lights soft against the empty street. I sat by the window, watching the rare car drift past while neon signs blinked like they were syncing with my thoughts. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my best friend calling. "Liam, where are you? You said you'd be home," he said, concern woven into every word. "I just needed to breathe," I admitted. I wasn't ready to unload everything yet. "Eh? Man, you sound wrecked. Tell me what happened." I hesitated but then let everything spill out. It was Claire. At her boss's party she acted like I wasn't even there. Laughing, joking, flirting in front of everyone. I couldn't take it, so I left. He was silent for a few seconds. Then his voice came through calm and firm. Good. Seriously. Some things you don't just let slide. Walking out shows you won't stay somewhere you're being treated like nothing. Hearing that, something inside me finally eased. I hadn't realized how tight my chest had felt until I chose to step away. There hadn't been a fight or a scene, just a decision. But it was mine, and that changed everything. When I got home later, the apartment was dim and quiet. Claire wasn't there. She must have stayed out. Normally, I would have worried, maybe called, maybe tried to justify her behavior to myself. But not that night. I poured a glass of water, sank into the couch, and let myself feel the strange relief of no longer participating in her spotlight act. In the morning, she texted me one line. You left last night. Did you have fun? My stomach tightened. I could have explained, but instead I wrote, I did what I needed to do. And yes, I did. She responded instantly. Fine. Just don't be dramatic. I actually smiled. If anything, the drama had been everything happening around me, not something I created. And for once, I wasn't reacting to her moods. I was simply observing them, calm and clear. Later, our mutual friend Harper messaged me. Oliver, everyone noticed when you left. Total power move. She looked stunned. People were talking. I laughed quietly. I hadn't meant to make a statement. I just removed myself. But by stepping away, I unknowingly changed the whole dynamic. That evening, Claire appeared at my door. Her face was a mix of surprise and something softer. Uncertainty, maybe. Oliver, can we talk? She asked. I watched her closely. The spark she flaunted at the party was gone. The polished charm she wore like armor seemed thinner now. Sure, I said, but understand this first. Last night wasn't about anyone else. It was me realizing my worth. And if you can't actually see me, no amount of talking will fix that. She swallowed and glanced down. After a long pause, she whispered, almost to herself, I didn't realize. I didn't know it made you feel that way. I didn't answer. Her words needed space. Some truths only hit when there's silence to catch them. In the days that followed, there was a shift between us. Not drastic, but noticeable. She included me more, asked about my day, acknowledged me, made room for me again. After being overlooked for so long, the difference was unmistakable. And that clarity I found the night I walked away stayed with me. Respect isn't earned by begging for it. It shows up when you enforce your boundaries and value yourself enough not to shrink. Looking back, that night became a turning point, not just in our relationship, but in who I was becoming. I learned that sometimes the strongest message comes from simply stepping out of a situation. Walking away isn't always anger. Sometimes it's the only way to give yourself the visibility and dignity you deserve. And Claire learned something too, not through arguments or guilt, but through a single, unmistakable act. I left. People noticed. She noticed. And in that quiet shift, we both saw the truth. Respect isn't automatic. It appears when someone refuses to settle for being unseen. And in that moment, I found something I didn't know I was missing. Calm, confidence, and the certainty that I would never allow myself to fade into the background again.